seeing other people succeed faster and easier than you does not define your skill set or your future opportunities as an advisor.
I'm a financial nerd. You're a financial nerd. I like hearing how you've helped develop your wealth for your family.
Waking up before the family does, having a cup of coffee and reading a book, that's a good way just to reset.
What's one mistake throughout your career that taught you the most? Hey, everybody. Welcome. And thank you for joining us in another episode of the Said Real Talk Corner. I'm here getting to interview some of our guests and attendees that have been a part of Said, known what Said is about, and are excited to share a little bit about their journey, their growth, in case you haven't got the pleasure of meeting them in person at the conference. So today, I have a pleasure of meeting one of our very first guests that came to the first conference,
Mhm.
and has been a returnee attendee ever since. So Victor, I'm very excited to see you and talk to you today. Without further ado, let's kind of like get a little bit about your story and hear about how you came into this finance industry.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. Thank you for letting me share my story with the community. Good to see you again, as always. So my story, gosh, think about it, I'm getting old now. So I can say 20 plus years ago, I started as a sophomore at San Diego State University. So I'm here in San Diego, California. And I had a classmate in my finance class that reached out to me saying, "Hey, I know some financial advisors that need some help for an internship. And would you be interested in joining or at least interviewing with them?" And so I thought that was a great opportunity. A classmate opened up a door, right? You never
Mm-hmm.
know how that opportunity is going to happen. And it just happened to be, a classmate that you'd hang out with throughout the week. And sure enough, he got me an interview. Back then, it was the office of MetLife, but they had a financial planning division that did have a lot of financial planners doing fee-based planning, CFPs, financial planning, the case design unit is what they called it back then. And ultimately, some financial advisors were looking for some additional summer help. So, fast forward, I was able to secure that interview, and I actually interviewed with Marcy Bear, who, as of today, 22 years later, is my business partner. So I
Wow.
went from the intern that never left, is what she calls me, right? The $6 an hour intern way back when.
Ooh.
And yeah, that's aging myself there. So now,
Yeah, definitely with that one.
yeah, exactly. And 50-50 partners now in our practice today. So, I was able to, in that experience, see what this profession looked and felt like. Got to grow up under the roof of various CFPs, which was, I think, even being with an insurance-based firm, to have that perspective really kind of helped mold my mind on what we could do in this profession. It wasn't just investments, wasn't just insurance. So I was very fortunate to grow up in that environment, but then also have Marcy as a mentor to kind of see ways on how to do this and ways not to do this, because I also worked for a lot of other advisors in the firm.
Yeah.
So a lot of good educations there while I was attending San Diego State University as an undergrad. So that's initially kind of how it got kicked off, and I got my
Mm-hmm.
foot.
No, that's really cool. And like one of the things that stood out to me there is like you you network, whether your friends, colleagues, and things like that, and you put yourself in position to kind of for someone to vouch for you. I think uh,
Yeah,
it's, it's some like in this day and age, I think that's super important to kind of get out there, talk to people, network. So you never know what could come out of that. Not that there should be something kind of it coming out of it, but putting yourself up there could create an opportunity like the one you got.
yeah, absolutely. I think who could help you land a role, or at least put you in an opportunity to get a role. But then what is going to allow you to keep it. But that first part is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how'd you get that what you know, right? Is it studying books? Is it passing the CFP? Is it the real world experience? How did you what's your biggest takeaway on how you've got to know what you know?
Yeah, I think I was able to participate as a fly in the wall in observing a lot of
Mm,
meetings from Marcy and other advisors. I think one tough thing in our profession is if you're a young advisor, next gen advisor, the career path can be gray. There's maybe not super well defined, but in my experience of observing how she ran meetings, how other advisors ran meetings, really got a sense of how one to become a business owner, which I think is one thing that we don't fully learn for
Hmm.
CFTs and those want to be in this profession, how much of a business owner hat you have to develop. But then just seeing the families, the issues they were going through, and seeing if someone was, I remember a financial plan to this day where a primary income earner passed away prematurely, did not have enough life insurance. And I was able to see the trajectory of their plan that happened after that. You know, and then seeing other examples of that in my career
Hmm.
allowed me to see what this was, and then eventually what skills to develop. Understanding rather it was, marriage equality. Back then it had not passed, so
Yeah.
planning for domestic partnerships was a lot different than maybe a conventional couple. So learning through just experience, but then having the fortunate ability of someone like Marcy who actually let me participate. That's a very
Yeah.
big word in this is as we're young advisors, junior advisors, sit in the corner, take notes, smile, don't interrupt the flow. But I think having her allow me to get involved and actually reeling me into the appointments to build my confidence, I think that was a big part because we may understand the skill and develop it, but being able to convey it with confidence and expression, that's the part that we may not get as many opportunities being a young advisor. And she definitely allowed me to develop that muscle over our time together.
Yeah, absolutely. The scripting you learn, the normal questions that we get are, and and then seeing the work of the financial plan you help develop come to life, like in your
Mhm.
case, I think that's what over time builds the confidence that you're speaking of. So,
Yeah.
um, so if you're a young planner, either taking notes or getting some of that experience with an advisor who's willing to mentor you is key. So,
Yeah.
love that takeaway. Love that takeaway. Early on, like it can't be all sunshine and rainbows, right? What's maybe one obstacle or challenge you faced early on that maybe like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm cut out for this, and how'd you kind of get past it?
Yeah. I think this is not an uncommon viewpoint or experience, but seeing other people succeed faster and easier than you does not define your skill set or your future opportunities as an advisor. And I think in the firm I was in, there was a lot of other advisors, a lot of other younger advisors, and everyone's kind of has their own markets, their own opportunities. And I think even though you're doing the right thing, you're putting in the grind, you're putting in the hustle, everyone's market is a little bit different. And I
Mhm.
think it's very easy to get caught up in that. And depending on what kind of firm you're at, the rewards for the production and the revenue, this and that nature, doesn't necessarily mean you're a good or bad advisor. But I think it's you got to put your blinders on and try to ignore that. Run your race and really develop your practice, your muscle from that standpoint. And I think that's early on is kind of understanding like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this well? Am I doing all the things I need to be? And unfortunately, sometimes revenue in some firms dictate how well you're doing, but that's not necessarily a fair measure from that standpoint. And I think being young and growing up in that, it's something even if being competitive and being in sports in my life,
Yeah.
that's something that it takes a while to reframe that when you're younger.
No, everybody's starting point is different, right? Everybody's journey is different. I love that. And uh, to that sense, I'm curious to know if right off the bat, at what point were you told you have to do bits development at all, if at all?
I mean, pretty quick out the gate. I mean, I was an administrative intern for multiple advisors for about 2 years, and then I eventually became licensed and I became an advisor on my own. So right out the gate, doing the cold calling, being developed in an agency model. So that was pretty much expected right out the gate. I did not have the here's a W-2, help support the senior advisor and develop a book maybe on your own as well. Um, so back in my day, right, get off my
Yeah.
lawn kind of moment. Like I didn't have that, so it was right out the gate. So I was very fortunate to start young and not have a bunch of needs and dependencies to be able to do that. from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think out the gate it was quickly, but then over time, Marcy and I started clicking and developing a relationship, and then we started becoming informally uh, joint partners in that. And over time, the splitting of cases and client relationships over time became greater and greater. But that might have been a 4 to 5 year period from beginning to really being in a synergetic way where we're 50-50. So
Yeah.
there was an opportunity and just kind of kept developing over time.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. The one question I hear with some young advisors as is that the new path is more is is common for advisors to kind of be support advisors, right? Do the behind the scenes work for the main advisors when they transition or to now more of a lead role or the business development, they want to go and do it themselves. What's one thing that really helped you grow that book of business early on?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really just being focused on a niche. Certainly did help.
Mhm.
Focusing on people in the LGBTQ community, women in leadership, and sustainable minded investors really kind of helped uh, attract clients that knew what we did and who we did it for.
Mhm.
And I think some of that specialization or just kind of association definitely helped. And then also really figuring out what it is that your clients are looking for from being a certified financial planner. So the tax planning, the estate planning side, so really adding value in those other areas beyond investments and cash flow statements. Really, I think adding some of those extra uh, strengths, I think also really helped kind of set things apart and really made word of mouth and our referability to clients, done well. Obviously, the competency part is almost understood, but it's really kind of developing that relationship and getting to a deeper level as well. The EQ side of this, knowing that this is serious stuff, but we can do it together and have a good time with it.
Mhm.
And it's not going to be a stuffy environment. It's going to be a fun environment and a relaxed environment. I think kind of developing both of those skill sets, I think really helped build the development side of our business and the clients who we serve.
Yeah, I like that. I think I've heard that a lot where niche and specialize in something
Yeah,
um, to make yourself stand out, right, a little bit
yeah,
in this world. I really like that. One of those things that, especially coming from a different background, it's hard to like hear other people, oh, I'm gonna call my uncle, my this, who have a lot of money and they just have the Rolodex of close friends and family that they can lean on. But sometimes we don't have that. And so it's good to hear how other people have done it beyond that. So thank you for sharing.
yeah. It's not uncommon, right? And I think you even covered it in the last podcast as well, right? I think that's a
Mhm.
not an uncommon conversation.
Yeah. And one other thing that we all have in common, people we're either allies or minorities that that we bring different perspectives, right?
Right.
I'm first gen, you're I believe second, third gen, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing that makes us is like it's a podcast for Latinos. We bring a different perspective. What do you think
Right.
maybe your upbringing helped you during your career?
Yeah. I think I've shared this before, right? So I'm second, third generation no sabo kid, right? So the power of Spanish
Yeah.
was a detriment in the eyes of my parents, right? When
Mhm.
developing me in my youth, right? And now we have all these families paying tons of money for immersion schools, right? So it's really funny how that's
Yeah, exactly.
right. So for me, I always had that never feeling Latino enough kind of concept, right? With these friends, I'm Mexican. With these friends, I'm white. So like that has been a tough process for me to use that as a superpower. But now I think what I've turned it into is just becoming the advocate, right? And understanding there are a lot of advisors and people like me as well, and being visible to them, I think is important from
Yeah,
that standpoint. But I think
absolutely.
the work ethic, right? My grandfather he would, on my mother's side, would go in Watsonville and pick cantaloupes in the season,
Mm.
right? And I never understood it when I was younger. I know Grandpa Juan would leave, come back a couple months. He had a van full of cantaloupes, and that's just what he did for the summer. But
Yeah.
then not really understanding that till I got older, what he did, and then my grandfather on my father's side, seeing his barbershop. I mean, been a barber for 60 years, and seeing him cut the hair of children whose parents sat in that same chair as they were a child as well. So I think just connections, work ethic, and seeing that kind of through my family as business owners, strong women as well. I think that molds you over time. And I think until you get older and you have a reflection here and there, then you're like, oh yeah, I learned that then. I just didn't know I learned it then.
Yeah. No, it's a blessing that we get to see some of the hardest working people
Yep.
in the world, and the opportunity that they gave to us, and we've been able to make the most of that fruit, right?
Yep.
So kudos to you. I'm sure your parents are proud, your grandparents that are proud of where you've come, and you've paved the way for your
Yep.
family, I'm sure.
Yep, absolutely. And then you can't see it now, but up here on the pointing, my hands are all cut off the screen. But I have a poster from the '70s from my grandpa's barbershop as a way to kind of pay tribute to him, and for me to kind of have that reminder, constantly every single day to have that.
Of where
That,
you
that
came from.
yeah, exactly. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was trying to I'm trying to expand the views, see if we got it, but no, unfortunately we did.
yeah,
But
yeah,
turning the to something turning the page to one of my favorite parts of this podcast is la verdad, the real talk
hmm,
moment.
hmm,
And um so this industry, this profession working comes with a lot of misconceptions. Like,
right.
so it's either going to be, let's talk about a misconception about either our profession, our culture, or money that as you've worked in this space long enough that you've seen and that is maybe misunderstood by others.
I think one of the things I want to address, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, is the the truth in our profession of a top advisor doesn't mean they're the best advisor. And not to be mean or start beef with anybody, but I've grown up in these agency models in different firms where you learn who the top advisor is, and you realize over time, well, just because they're top advisor, I mean, their clients weren't polled, right? There's different ways these metrics and these awards are given, and outside of a revenue or paying for an award, it's hard when you're growing in this profession to understand what success looks and feels like. And I think I was very fortunate to develop in an area where I got to see the good side of that and the less good side of that, and really learn a lot. I think some of my best mentors were bad advisors, and I am fortunate to say I know nothing like criminally horrible, but you see certain ways to do things, certain ways not to do things, and I think when you're younger, it's very easy to see awards and this, that, and the other, social media, all those type of things. Not nothing's wrong with social media from that standpoint, but it's hard to get caught up in that race. And I think if you're building something that's intentional to you, that's authentic to you, and for your client base, I think that's a key thing to focus on. Yes, there are definitely mentors you could reach out to that have done well in this profession, but I think one of the big things that I eventually learned over time was, oh, just because they have the corner office or they have the top this or top that doesn't necessarily mean well-rounded. They're all that either. So I
Yeah.
think it's one thing to kind of be careful how you weigh that when you're looking at mentors or just this, north stars to look to in this profession. So
Hmm.
there are
Hmm.
plenty that are fantastic and amazing, and they earn that right without a doubt. But there are some not so much either, and I think that's one thing for the next gen advisor, for the youthful advisor that's coming up in this. It's just something to kind of have one eye open and use your gut when you're kind of going through this process and you're talking to some senior people in your firm or even at other professional networking events.
Yeah, I think there's some people who definitely embrace the spotlight and seek it
Yeah,
and find ways to kind of showcase that. And there's people that are okay with just doing the work for their clients
yeah,
and their people. and don't necessarily need that spotlight. So I definitely agree with you there. I mean,
Yeah, and both are okay, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
you got to know, just like your clients, right? You got to find that alignment, like what's true to you, and seek that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both come with the story and a passion and have something to give. So
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. Is there anything else that's on your mind?
yeah. I think some things we were talking previous to, just
Hmm.
this profession, some challenges with it as well.
Yeah.
To kind of looking inward, so that's the exterior, right? But kind of looking inward, I think as advisors, we love doing what we do for our clients, and we almost get that hero complex. And I think for more maybe the experienced advisors or advisors who've been around a little bit more to kind of developing their business, there's that fine line of burnout that you just want to get one more email, one more meeting. Oh, the client asked for this. Okay, I'll squeeze it in between this. I won't eat lunch today, and I'll binge eat something horrible later, right? And I think that's one thing as advisors that we can focus on as well. And I'm obviously projecting to everyone tuning into this is I'm struggling with that personally, right? Is exchanging revenue for life experience, life expectancy, and overall health. And I think that's one thing as if you're on the business owner side of this versus the employee side of things, is really just letting that calling we have to our clients not stray us way too far from our own personal wellness either. And that hero complex, that we feel good about that. We feel that worth to our clients. We're there to help them and get them across the road from that perspective, whatever life journey we've been blessed to be, a part of their family's experience for that on. And obviously we feel a great, role of responsibility to that. But I think juggling that versus burning yourself out is something to work through. Um, Definitely from that standpoint. And I had this conversation with a client recently as well because we've been fortunate to grow well and do well and kind of just check in with each other. And he looks at me, he says, I need you to outlive me. And, joke, and there's a big age discrepancy there, but we never know.
Yeah.
We have the blessings that we have, but you know, we should feel that way. I feel that way for my daughters, for my wife, for my family. Sometimes you're not always showing up the best way to make sure you're backing up that promise, but your clients feel the same way too. And I think kind of framing it in that perspective is, you're going to do what you're going to do for your family, but your clients also want you to stick around for a while too. And trying to squeeze that one extra thing in, I think there's a balancing act. At some point, you got to kind of slow down, take a deep breath, and just understand. Do you need some kind of reset or recalibration with that? So I think that's one thing that I think, from a professional standpoint, can be a struggle as well with other people in
Ab-
this community.
No, absolutely. And I'm curious to hear a little bit how you've set those boundaries a little bit, how what steps have you taken to help kind of with that to keep that calibration?
Speaking it out loud with you, and hopefully it comes to me, because I'm working. I wouldn't say I'm working on that. I'm
Yeah.
identifying that it is something that
Yeah.
needs to get worked on, and those boundaries need to get adjusted.
Yeah.
And we just need to figure out, how do you achieve that, right? And I think as business owners, we struggle with that, and I think that's something that hopefully in a year you can come back to me at a conference and I can say XYZ. Right
No, no,
now,
no.
right now it's just acknowledging it, saying it out loud, asking
That's right.
asking for help from your team, and really just kind of taking a step back there.
Yeah, it's funny, like, yeah, what's the thing? What's the saying? Like, oh, go away for a week and see what happens, and
Yeah,
you could be surprised, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
you know, you know. So I don't know. From here until September, you got to work on it, Victor. I'm gonna check up on you.
There you go. I'll have hopefully I'll have something good in Denver.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, we have the World Cup as a little distraction right now. Hopefully, that 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 could have been your excuse, but no, definitely. I like that. We're as a collective group here to elevate one another, inspire us to be
Mhm.
the better version of ourselves. And you're being vulnerable to kind of, hey, I'm working on this. I got this, and we're here to help each other
Yep.
become better advisors and planners for our clients.
Yep. Yeah. And someone out there hearing this has gone through that. I welcome the conversation. If others are struggling with this as well, I welcome the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We'll let people know how to reach out to you later.
Yeah.
But something that I like also, I'm a financial nerd. You're a financial nerd.
Mhm.
Um, I like hearing how financial planners like yourself, how some of the financial habits or systems that you preach to your clients that you incorporate in your personal life. You mind sharing a little bit about that and how
Yeah.
you've helped develop your wealth for your family?
Yeah. I think setting up my daughters, setting them up with a 529 account, a UTMA account, and I was joking to myself the other days. They have more money at 6 and 8 than I had in my 20s, right? But I think that's part of the plan, right? And
Yeah,
every
yeah.
generation is a leave a generation after them in a better spot. And I think we tell our clients, save young for your kids. Let time do its thing. And so I feel that me applying that to my daughters is a way of kind of practicing what I preach, eat my own cooking, if you will.
Awesome.
And I recently had a big win with that with our clients because about 3 weeks ago I met with a longtime client, 20-year client, with his son. And when I started working for this client way back when, he was the age of my daughters now. And I think
Wow.
I was probably the age of his son now that I was back then. Um, but ultimately, he's now in his professional career. He's planning his wedding. And so we got to have the meeting with the longtime client, the father, and then his son. And knowing that we helped set up that 529 account for them forever ago. And then now, fast forward to see him at this state in this phase of his career was a very beautiful thing to see. And very similar to my grandfather seeing, cutting the hair of children and their parents, seeing that and knowing that that's what I want for my daughters to be in a strong financial spot when it comes to their time to develop their own story. So by saving for them now, building that nest egg, I feel that's where I'm getting my first full circle moment there.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm a little curious. I don't know if you're willing to share why the 529 and the Utmost? Is it ones for one or ones for one? Just curious.
Yeah, so they both have both, and I look at it as just good flexibility
Okay.
and for choices in life. Obviously, this is before rules changed. 529 is getting
Yeah,
converted
yeah.
to Roth, right? But I think also it gives me an opportunity to educate my daughters about individual securities and responsible financial stewardship. So, when they are of age, they're going to have a good chunk of change where a lot of people will be fearful, like, gosh, if I was 18 and I had that much money, I wouldn't want that, or I'd be reckless with it. But I think it's my responsibility to make sure that that doesn't happen or educate them along the way. So I feel that it's a way to introduce other investments that you may not be able to get in a 529 plan to kind of
Mhm.
teach them along the way and help with their financial literacy from that standpoint. And then again, diversification and flexibility of the assets to be used from that standpoint.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking on the sustainable investing,
Yeah,
chair, chairman, or yeah, you got your girl's got a lot. I got a lot of wisdom there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the hope. Get them in a solid spot.
Yeah, and I like that. You kind of spoke about it earlier about um, setting those boundaries and setting those things to kind of you know recharge a bit, right? Said stands for supporting, educating, and recharging, right? I
Mhm.
think that that is something that we as advisors have to find and either our support group. We have to continuously be learning, and we have to find ways to recharge, right? I mean, from that uh, hero, um, uh, the problem you were having,
Mhm.
it comes day in day and out from like business owners to uh, the paraplanners. We all kind of have to find our way to be
Yeah.
set, to ser.
Mhm.
So one of the things that you shared a little bit earlier, but um, aside from Marcy,
Mhm.
because I'm sure there's a lot of support there. But how do you actively get support from people outside of your team?
Yeah, great question. So Marcy and I about 12 years ago joined the Wealth Consulting Group, and
Mhm.
they're a hybrid RIA affiliation with LPL Financial as a broker dealer. So, shout out to both of them for supporting SARE.
Yeah,
We're
shout
very
out.
happy that Wealth Consulting Group and LPL are doing that. So part of our affiliation allows us to have other resources, other team members to help us rather develop financial plans, do insurance planning, but then also have a pool of other advisors that we could do retreats with each other. We just came back from one in Oceanside 2 weeks ago,
Oh,
where
nice.
we're all in similar situations and we're trying to figure out as business owners how do we get to the same places we're all trying to get to, because it all fairly rhymes. How do we develop our teams best? How do we develop our business best? So I think being part of a group like the Wealth Consulting Group is a great way to get some of that support outside of the team, where you could be small but big at the same time. And
Yeah.
and Christian Lopez, awesome, business development person for the Wealth Consulting Group. Sarah in Chicago last year was his first time. He's definitely coming back this year in Denver, and he's helping build the culture and bring in other advisors to continue to
Love that.
facilitate that, because we need infrastructure as a team, just day to day for clients,
Yeah.
but then also having a sounding board of other like-minded, cool culture advisors that people like Christian are bringing in. I think that's where we're able to get some of that share in our own community, if you will.
Yeah.
So, it can be a lonely profession if you're RIA on your own, or a solo advisor, whatever the case may be. It could be a lonely job sometimes if it's just you and your team. And how do you think outside the box and get replenished and work the mind a little bit? And I think with us joining the group 12 years ago, it's been a very powerful partnership for us.
I love that. And I know, I think that that's a big privilege, right? To be a part of something like that, um, brings out the best of one another, and knives sharpen knives. I love that. I
It
love it.
is, yeah. That
How do you
it's funny that you say that, because I posted a picture of us at the beach, and I put, steel sharpen steel. You
steel
know,
sharpen steel?
so
I'm not stalking you. Don't probably you just caught me. Hey.
yeah, hey, good, you're doing the recon. That's good.
Hey, no, I love it. I love it. How do you like to stay sharp when it comes to the technical side?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's just staying curious, really, right? I mean, there's so much we can take in, but I think focusing on what are the common needs of your clients. I think this kind of goes back to the niching thing. Is there's so much to learn, it's overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
So maybe focus on certain areas. Obviously going through the CFP is a big part of that, but looking at designations like the TPCP, the ones focused on tax. I think just kind of finding what parts of our profession that really we are drawn to, and just kind of staying in that lane. It may not be what you think you need to study here, or I need to get this designation, or I need to do that. I think just really understanding what feels good and normal to you, and just really kind of just doubling down on that as much as you can. Rather it's certain conferences put on by the tech vendor, rather it's designations that are focused on that area specifically. I think it's just really kind of just staying curious and interested in the areas you are, and not trying to get it all in and be everything for everybody.
I love it. Um, this is my favorite one. How do you like to recharge outside of work?
How do I like to recharge outside of work? I like traveling and going on a trip with the family. Getting out, letting the kids see another part of the country, and getting out with them and experiencing that. I think I'm at the point now where you start appreciating life through the eyes of your kids, and I
Mhm.
think so. The opportunity of giving the opportunity of that for them, selfishly gives you that gift back. And I think doing that is a way of recharging ourselves, as a family, as
Mhm.
myself personally. But honestly, it's just on a day to day, waking up before the family does, having a cup of coffee and reading a book. That's you know, when I was younger, I'm like, there's no way that feels like luxury, right? But you get to a certain point where, like, you know what? That's a good way just to reset. Read a book that's not part of our financial industry. Just take a few moments to yourself in the morning, and that does wonders versus waking up and jumping on your email right away.
No, yeah, I like that. And as a new father, I never envisioned myself going to the gym at 5 a.m. Like, what crazy person goes to
Yeah,
the gym at 5? But that's I think putting a little bit of time for yourself, dedicating a
Yeah,
little bit of that self-care for yourself,
yeah,
uh, gives the opportunity to show up for your family at the best version of for your family. So
yep, yep,
couldn't agree with you more there.
yep.
Um, we're getting close to the end of this episode, so I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right, are you ready? Don't. Yeah,
We'll
you're
see.
sweating a little bit, but
See.
we'll get through it. I promise. Hopefully. Here we go. What's one word your team would use to describe you?
Whoa.
Let's get them in the room.
So yeah, meticulous.
Meticulous. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What's something people would be surprised to learn about you? The fun fact.
I actually get really nervous. I've spoken at conferences all the time. I just got done moderating one in DC for USF, a sustainable investing one, even lead up to this podcast. As much as I do speaking, I still get nervous significantly every single time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I echo that sentiment every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I like this one. What's one mistake throughout your career that taught you the most,
One mistake has taught me the most.
or that you remember for sure?
No, this is more of a haha than a enlightening one here. I remember one time I was working on a mail project for Marcy and a couple of advisors, and I didn't use Excel the right way. So we were doing a big mail campaign, and I
Mhm.
messed up the cells, and the person one, person two, the spouses, partners, whatever it may be, I actually had them mixed. So by the time when the mail went out, it got sorted the wrong way. So you had Mr. and Mr. and Mrs. and Mrs. of people that were not together. And that was quite the interesting feedback they got from all those clients when we did, a physical mailer where literally everyone had a different spouse's name next to theirs in the mailer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Victor, you're gonna drive to all these people's houses and explain this.
Yep.
Oh man, those are good.
That's probably why I became the way I am. Because this is why I had
Meticulous,
so much trauma from that that
meticulous.
it just made me it made the monster I am today. I guess.
I love that. Uh, what's one mindset that that helped change your career? Mindset shift. Sorry.
Um, yeah, I've said it before. I think run your own race, right?
Yeah,
Like
I like
it's
that.
so easy to get distracted and get pulled this way or that. There's so many shiny objects, in our path, and I think just got to be you. Build the practice you want to build. Serve the clients how you want to serve them, and try not to let those other distractions throw you off your course. And I think it's very hard to do. You can respect input, respect experience of those that came before you, but ultimately, it's your race to run, and you want to make sure you feel good putting your head on the pillow at the end of your night.
Absolutely. I love that. Um, why is having a community like said so important for this profession?
Wow. Now we're getting heavy, right? I think it's we've talked about this at all the conferences. I just think it's important that we find, each other, right? And we help bring up the next generation, or we help, band together from that standpoint. And I think, the very first time I went to SARE in 2023, I met Gloria, right? Her and I have been on the podcast, and we've talked about this before, where we were currently in the middle of not studying for the CFP exam that was coming up in about 6 weeks from that SARE, and
Yeah,
we realized that we shit, we need to get on this, and
yeah,
we became accountability partners, right? And we still say today, we're bonded by trauma of the CFP, but would we have passed on our own? Hopefully, but we found each other, we pushed each other. She knows I sent an endless amount of jobs not finished Kobe gifts, to her, but that made it stronger, and we are able to celebrate with each other when we got to the other side of that. We got to celebrate, in such a unique, fun way by finding each other as a community. And now, being affiliated with, with Hillary Castillo as my mentee, who we met in Chicago. So we have a mentor mentee through Sarah in this community building. And now I see that she's becoming a CFP candidate. She's about to go through the same path that Gloria and I went on together,
Yeah.
and see all the work she's doing, as an FPA Next Gen, member, Orange County and National Board, to just participate in other people's lives in our community to help elevate each other is something that's just so powerful. That's definitely something that refills our cups, no doubt. If we can't do it in a local level, and I think that's just what the magic of Sarah is all about: is finding each other, seeing where everyone's at in their own journey, and then how do we keep each other going when we want to slow down at those tough moments.
You heard it from him first. You heard it here live. No, but I love that. I love that we find each other at SER after not being with each other for a long time, and we get to reconnect. We get to support each other. We get to grow with each other. We get to share those stories, um, and be our cheerleaders when sometimes, even though you're in San Diego, I'm in LA, it doesn't feel like we're that far away, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So definitely encourage you, if you haven't come out to SED, you're looking for a space where you find, you're looking for community. This is the spot, and we're going to be in Denver, August
Oh,
31st, September 1st. So we hope to see you there. Get your tickets at setsummits.com. Stay tuned on this Set Real Talk corner for to hear more guests that are going to be out there that share the same passion that the people that put it on do. And I'm really thankful for the wisdom you dropped on us today, Victor. I look forward to seeing you Set, and I'm gonna keep you accountable.
all right. Please do. Please do.
All right, everybody. See you soon.